Hey, what's going on, my friend? It's Jeff Newbert from ChasingStrength.com. And in this video, I want to ask you a question, and that is this. What is the greatest strength feat that you've ever witnessed? All right. And this is my number one pick. All right. So let's dive into it today. Okay. So Eddie the Beast Hall was the first person to deadlift, and I'm going to put that in quotes, deadlift 500 kilos or 1,100 pounds. And I put the deadlift in air quotes because he did it in a strongman competition, and he broke the world record for the strongman deadlift. But he also broke the powerlifting rules for the deadlift. All right. So many powerlifters don't consider that a legit deadlift. Okay. So he used straps, right? Wrist wraps to hold on to the bar. And he hitched the deadlift on his thigh during the lockout. Okay. Impressive nonetheless. Okay. Here's another impressive. And I think this is a more impressive feat of strength and actually power. And that was Pocket Hercules, or Naim Sulemanglou, who was an Olympic lifter who lifted, I believe at the time, for Bulgaria. Maybe it was Turkey. I can't remember which. But he ended up clean and jerking 190 kilos at a body weight of 60 kilos, or 3.15 times his body weight for the greatest Sinclair formula total, or Sinclair total formula, whichever way you say it, of all time. Okay, so that's another one. Or maybe it's Arthur Saxon's bent press of 386 pounds, right? Which to this day has never been matched. And he did that at a body weight of sub 200 pounds. Now, the list could go on. And I'm sure that you have your list and you've seen your fair share too. But me, my number one pick of all time was at the 1999 New Jersey State Weightlifting Championships. Now, I don't remember this gentleman's name, but I do remember his strength feat. Okay, so here's the background. He was 73 years old, and he split snatched essentially body weight, 72.5 kilos, and got 3 white lights. Now, if you don't know what a split snatch is, we'll throw a picture up here on the board. Good grief. Up here next to me on the old video. Okay. And as you can see, this requires a lot of speed, a lot of power, and a lot of flexibility and mobility. Okay. So after he did that, he got his 3 white lights. He dropped the weight, and then he ran up the bleachers, which were about shoulder height, and he jumped off the back of them to celebrate. Okay. Now, this is crazy. Now, most guys over 40 can't do any sort of lunge without something popping or hurting or even breaking, right? Especially their knees, let alone lunging, right? Or jumping into a lunge with weight over their head. Okay. That's just not going to happen. So seriously, imagine seeing some 40-year-old guys, do that, or maybe even imagine trying it yourself. Okay. So that's just, again, for most guys, not going to happen. In fact, when most 70-year-olds are busy clinging to life in their recliners, watching reruns of Matlock on TBS. Okay, I'm probably dating myself here. Apparently they got a new Matlock now, and it's a chick. A woman. Anyway, we're not going to go down that road, even though I just opened the door there. This gentleman, this 73-year-old gentleman, was demonstrating amazing power, amazing speed, amazing strength, amazing flexibility, and amazing agility. I don't know about you, but I plan on keeping all that I've gotten back, right, since my 30s. I'm in my early 50s now. By the time I was 32, I'd lost a bunch of mobility, a bunch of flexibility, and a bunch of strength due to the compounding effect of half a lifetime, literally 16 years worth of accumulated injuries, broken arm, dislocated kneecap, injured lower back, torn labrums in both hips, right? So I'm never going back there. In fact, I plan on riding off into the proverbial sunset with all the restored function that I've recaptured and regained. Okay. Now, what's interesting to note is that VO2 max is all the rage right now. Actually, again, right? What goes around comes around. King Solomon said it best. There's nothing new under the sun, right? It is the number one predictor of longevity. But you know what guarantees a low VO2 max? Well, in case you don't, I'm going to tell you, right? It's losing muscle. Because you have sore, stiff joints, you can no longer move into normal ranges of motion and pain-free ranges of motion. So you can no longer move where you once were able to, okay? Or you just can't move them at all because you haven't moved them well for the last 10, 15, or 20 years or more. The fact is, muscle moves you, right? So if you take care of your joints, then you'll keep your muscle and you can grow even more, should you so choose, regardless of your age, long into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and further, right? Now, what are some other predictors of longevity? These are the ones that I'm really interested in because they're based on muscle, or at least having a little bit more muscle than the average bear. Okay, number one is grip strength. Okay, Using kettlebells, you can build some significant grip strength from heavy swings and, better yet, snatches. Number 2, getting up from the floor without using your hands. Okay, so you have to be able to lunge and squat and have good hip internal rotation for this. Good hip external rotation too, for a matter of fact. Number 3 is leg muscle strength and leg muscle size, or leg muscle diameter, right? In other words, you got to have muscular legs. So make sure you can still squat and lunge. So what about muscle stiffness and reduced flexibility? Same thing. Muscle stiffness and reduced flexibility are going to restrict your ranges of motion. They're going to reduce your ability to build muscle and get stronger. Worse, right? Eventually, as you get tighter, you risk damaging your joints. Sounds crazy, I know, but it happened to me 20 years ago, all right? January of 2005. Man, that's crazy. Seems like just yesterday, and yet it's a lifetime ago. After one of my best Olympic lifting training sessions ever, I stripped weight off the bar. I jumped underneath it for a warm-up set of classic cleans, which is where you land in a full squat, and I felt like somebody stabbed me in the front of my right hip with a flathead screwdriver. My right hip flexor tightened up, so I stretched it, and just like any good meathead, I did another rep, and I had exactly the same experience. Stabbed again in the front of the right hip with a flathead screwdriver. So after 4 months of chronic muscle spasm in that hip, intermittent excruciating pain, corrective exercise, chiropractic, massage, acupressure, acupuncture, and other modalities, I bit the bullet, got first an x-ray and then an MRI, right? And then it turns out I had torn the labrum in my right hip. We'll throw an image up here of a labrum, or a torn labrum in the hip, so you can see what I'm talking about. And then in September of the same year, I did exactly the same thing to my left hip. And then I spent the next 7 years. It's crazy to think about it, looking back at it. 7 years working to get pain-free. And when I say working, I mean working, right? It wasn't like hoping and praying and wishing and maybe doing some stretching here and there and reading some magazines and going and getting a massage or any of that stuff. No, I was working daily. I do multiple joint mobility drills each day, right? Throughout the day. In fact, I became an expert in joint mobility work, but it actually didn't work, right? It was like playing that old carnival game, whack-a-mole. The pain would disappear and then reappear somewhere else with zero predictability. And it was the same thing with my function. It wasn't until September 2010 through April of 2012, when I started focusing on what are called developmental movements, that things drastically improved. And you know what? I got 90% of the way there. I restored about 90% of my former function, got practically pain-free, right? And it was fantastic. It was great. I loved it. I felt young again. I could move. I could do the things I wanted to do, or almost. All right. Now, what about that last 10%? Well, that came right around 2019, 2020, right around that time frame, right? Right around the beginning of the pandemic. And now that I move like I could when I was a kid, actually, the truth be told, I can move better than I was when I was 16 or 17, right? There is absolutely zero going back. Now, will I be split snatching my body weight at 73? Well, probably not. But by then I will finally have scratched off my Olympic lifting itch and will have checked all the boxes associated with it. So let me ask you, dear viewer, what about you? What's holding you back? Okay. And what do you want to be doing 20 years from now? What fantastic strength feat do you want to achieve? Okay. Whatever it is, make keeping your joints mobile and your muscles pliable your number one priority. All right. Look, if you're struggling, I recommend you use the same system that I built for myself. I'll leave a link for it in the video description below. If you found this video helpful, click the like button, smash the subscribe button, share it with a friend. Leave me a comment about your favorite strength feat in the comment section below. Until next time, my friend, stay strong.